So we can see the dates are on here, but we're talking about tight end anchors. So top of list, obviously, is Travis Kelce. And so what are these dates here? So in the RSJ Superflex Dynasty League, you had myself, you had Jimbo. Our teams were in a little bit of my team was a contender last year, both of ours, me and Jimbo. And as I said in other episodes, I watched 3 contenders, including Jimbo, bolster their 2023 rosters. Jimbo went and got Derrick Henry. Jackson Barrett went and got Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and then Kendall Brown went and got T.J. Hawkinson. So in Kendall's case, that was more of a long-term bolster. I considered the other 2 guys to be more like short-term kind of bolstering for 2023. And I looked at my own team, and I went, I don't know. Now I don't know if I can do this with this team. And I made the decision to kind of pivot to a strategy that I think some would call unwise, because you're either contending or you're rebuilding. And the spot you don't really want to be is that middling kind of area where you're not good enough to win anything, but then like you're not getting great draft capital high-end first round either. But that's kind of where I decided to go in a big sense. Already didn't have much draft capital, so I was focusing on getting younger where I thought the value was good. And so one trade, I don't know if this is the first trade that really kicked that off for me. February 22nd, 2023. I don't know how long we might have been talking about this one, but Jimbo sent me Geno Smith, Darren Waller, Daniel Jones, Javonte Williams, and a 2025 first rounder for Travis Kelce, Dak Prescott, Dalvin Cook, see a 2024 third, 2025 second. That was the first one there. You had just over a month later, I went and bothered Jimbo again for some Marquise Brown action, and I sent him his, or rather, he sent me. So that's not the same 2025 second. All right, so a little tweak there. It doesn't really make a big difference. But I thought that was the same 2025 second, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like I got Marquise Brown and his 2025 second. Shipped off Mike Evans, Sterling Shepard, Rashaad Penny, and that time a 2024 first. So I took away the 2025 second, called it more or less equal, just to make it a little simpler here. Zoom in. Those 2 trades combine for this package right here. Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Javonte Williams, Marquise Brown, Darren Waller, and a 2025 first. For Dak Prescott, Dalvin Cook, Rashaad Penny, misspelled, Mike Evans, Sterling Shepard, Travis Kelce, 24 first, 24 third. So this, much like the big trade between me and Emery right after the 2021 season started, that catapulted me into a rebuild and catapulted him into contendership. This one was big as far as sending me into this retooling mode, not really a rebuild, more of a retooling mode, and then further solidified Jimbo as a contender. And on our very first episode, me and Emery were talking about what kind of stage are these teams in for the RSJ Dynasty League. We labeled Jimbo a troubled contender was the technical term that we labeled Jimbo's team, which we can get looking into. Just basically the age cliff. We feel like Jimbo's team, I think, is the closest one to the age cliff. And these couple of trades that you look at combined here didn't help. But we can go back. We can go over and look at Jimbo's team to see just how stacked he is for this season. But like we have our unbiased third party here in Emery, and so I kind of just want to leave the floor to you about where you want to start with all of this shit right here. Mute. You're on mute.
Got it. Thank you.
All right.
So what I'm seeing is that Dane, you got far younger. Dalvin Cook is not currently signed to an NFL team at the moment. Mike Evans is going into his year at least 29, and Travis Kelce is the same. I think Travis Kelce is 30. Daniel Jones is younger than Dak Prescott, but we have gotten what we're seeing here from you is, like you said, you're getting younger. You need to do this, and you didn't get younger at the sake of just younger players to be younger. Marquise Brown, Javonte Williams, Daniel Jones had a great year last year. Marquise Brown is going to be a target hog with Hopkins gone, no matter who is at quarterback in Arizona, and in the long term, hopefully when they turn it around and get a quarterback, maybe it's Caleb Williams, maybe it's Trey Lance, maybe it's, I don't know, someone in that range. I mean, and I also think Darren Waller is a huge candidate for a better role. He's obviously the best receiving option there in New York, and I think the Daniel Jones stack with him is going to be pretty fun to watch. And then for Jimbo, it's like you said, you have guys on your team that are true difference makers. I know Dak gets a lot of shit. Dak is a top 10, 12 quarterback in the league, in my opinion. Rashaad Penny probably didn't know it at the time, but was going to be an RB1 in Philly.
News today, right?
Yeah, first snap. Alongside, we should make note, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was also the first running back to touch the ball in Kansas City.
Right.
Yeah,
that's my boy.
So it's good. It's good news. We got good news out here. And Mike Evans too. I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum last week. Mike Evans has not had 1,000 yards receiving, and it's to the point where, like, if show me you're not going to do it first. I mean, he hasn't. There's no evidence that Mike Evans is going to slow down. He's seen Tom Brady at quarterback. He's seen Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, and he's seen, Jameis Winston. There's that's sort of a big sort of like talent difference there. And he's performed every single time. I think Mike Evans he's sneaky top five receivers of the last, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and he's going to continue at that level until we're shown that he can't. And then you get Travis Kelce. I mean, that's speaks for itself. The ability to have a 4-point, it's basically like you're starting with at least 4 points over your tight end. You know, you can chalk Travis Kelce up for at least 10 points, non-PPR, PPR, whatever you want to do. He is 4 points better than any other position out there. And so it really comes down to, and what Dane and I wanted to talk to when we introduced this this sort of show that we're doing here, is that you can put numbers up, you can put trades up, you can put assets up, and they are all so subjective. You need to know more of the context around people's teams, around moves, and why they were made. But this is as close to a win-win trade as we can see. Certainly, Jimbo gave up a lot of youth, but returns a first-round pick that will be. I mean, you've said it yourself, Dane, that you're theoretically stuck in the middle of our league here. So you're hoping to draft anywhere below this, anywhere between 5 and 8 in the rookie draft. You know, that's nothing to sneeze at. And return Travis Kelce. You know, I mean, you're certainly giving up a lot, but you're getting a lot in return for both of you guys. So like I said at the beginning of the show, I can't tell you who won this. I mean, it would be great to see Jimbo go out there and win a championship or come in second to me this year. That would be pretty cool.
Anyone but Jackson.
Anyone but Jackson. You know, I mean, yeah, I think we both voted, and we said you were a troubled contender at the beginning of the season. I think Dane said he said everyone has their vices, and I think Jimbo's maybe late round draft picks. And he said it is much to his own fault that your team is older and sort of aging stars. And then he said that was his fault. So we can point some fingers there, and that's why we're talking now. We did bring up the fact that, say, you have 6 guys right here: Chubb, Henry, Cook, Evans, Lockett, Kelce. If they're out of relevance in 2 years, then what do you do? Do you trade Josh Allen for the moon? You know, like, do you do that? I think that coming from this, there has to be some sort of return. You finished second in the regular season this year, couldn't make it to the championship last year, and there's got to be some sort of return, right? It's got to become fruitful at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the what's the word I'm looking for? The narrow-minded view would be, oh yeah, it's future me problem to figure out in 2 or 3 years. Just push all the chips in now and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, like you said, if it comes to that and they're all relevant, like the Garrett Wilsons, the Josh Allens, like, am I going to have to start dangling those out to, trade one guy for multiple assets in order to rebuild? Like, that's probably going to have to be the move, unfortunately.
Yeah. And for you, Dane, you're sitting at a roster with a lot of promise. I think my notes for you, Dane, were you were your Reddit's favorite roster here. I think you had a lot of guys that were huge on Reddit. I mean, we got Anthony Richardson, Breece Hall, Marquise Brown, Gino, Daniel Jones, Elijah Moore. See, we're going through. Njoku.
Elijah Moore.
We're just looking. Kadarius Toney. We're just looking and we're looking and we're looking. I mean, is it in the same vein of me saying to Jimbo, what are the expectations, or like what has to happen for you to continue on this route? Where are you, Dane, in saying like this team is a championship contender in 2 years? How do you take that big step next? You know, it would start by cutting Zach Wilson, but
so there's too much up in the air with this team. Like, I'm not like RB1 Cordero Patterson. This is, I feel like me and Jimbo are sort of on the opposite ends of the spectrum, to where I kind of think exit strategy for Jimbo. What's the exit strategy? I'm very curious to see. We've already started to see it. Right, we could bring up the trade. What was the trade exactly for Travis Etienne? Because that, when we first did the episode talking about the team stages, you didn't have Travis Etienne yet. Shout out to D'Lo if he's still watching. He was there at the beginning. I saw that, but that was Etienne. That you got Etienne. You gave away a 2024 first. There was another piece to that, right?
It was basically Etienne for the first and Roschon Johnson, and then we swapped like a third next year and a third in like 2 years, I think it was.
Okay, because we already kind of started to see the exit strategy that I've been curious to keep track of. Is like how you never want to put yourself, back yourself into a corner in Dynasty. And I feel like Jimbo's team was probably the closest to reaching that point where, say these older guys do fall off in 2 years, now are you not just looking for a rebuild, but like how long-term does that rebuild become, kind of thing? Because we're talking about that kind of age. But now that's been that concern has been quelled. I guess not a lot. There's still I think work to be done as far as like making sure you have enough breathing room to be comfortable. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about the age cliff anymore. But Now you have one 2024 first as opposed to two. That was one of the things I was looking at in particular is like, is he going to keep those? First round rookie picks aren't necessarily starters. Now you have a guy in Etienne who I think is, man, I got to go back. I can't remember exactly. I think I have him on my anchors list for running back. So another plug him in, 3+ year guy, 3 years down the road. These other guys, like Evans and Kelce and probably Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry's probably falling off a cliff too. Like now you have Etienne there, who I think is a long-term locked-in guy. And so, what else? What else is like on the docket? I guess is what I'm going to be looking for the future. Like how else? What other moves are going to be made to kind of get out of this concern as far as the age cliff goes? And I think it's still there. Made one move to quell that concern, and whereas I'm like very much wait and see. I don't know what I'm doing yet. Got to see these guys play it out for 1 or 2 years. Probably 2. Like I don't know if 1 year is good enough for Jordan Love, for Anthony Richardson, for maybe just those guys. The other guys, you can probably get a good grip on what their future is going to look like after 1 year. But like, Love's got some growing pains to do even in his 4th year. We were looking at the stats with Aaron Rodgers and how Aaron Rodgers he went 6-10 his first year starting, and then his 2nd year starting was when things really took off. So even if Jordan Love kind of craps the bed, maybe not craps the bed, but doesn't have a great year, I think the jury's still probably going to be out on him as far as I'm concerned. So particularly with my two QBs here, Richardson and Jordan Love, very much wait and see. Obviously, Trey Lance is wait and see as much as anybody. So, whereas I'm kind of not really looking for a particular strategy with my own team, looks pretty set in stone with Jimbo's, and definitely curious to see what the future is going to hold. I don't really know how much more we can dive into without talking about like who you're looking for in trades and stuff. I don't want to like.
Yeah, we don't need to blow your spot up here.
Out, but like what is if I had to think of like the big question that I would want to hear from Jimbo about this particular team, this particular situation about having a team approaching an age cliff. Maybe it's just a general one. Like what is your strategy? Because obviously you want to get younger quality guys where you can, but like just I guess any more general commentary, because as far as just strategy goes, like what does somebody do in this particular situation as a contender who's approaching an age cliff?
Yeah. So pretty much going into this whole offseason, I guess, like I felt really good about this starting lineup. Like it was probably gonna do pretty well. But my bench, it was all old veterans that had nothing. So trading for Etienne plugs a small hole in the running back room for a little bit. That's still a big area of work to get younger in. And then the move sending Keegs, Miles Sanders, and like a third to get a first so I could draft JSN. I wanted to get a really quality young receiver that I can possibly pair with Wilson as like the 2 receivers going forward. So little moves like getting Darnell Mooney. I mean, that's not going to move the needle anywhere, but it's like when your bench receivers are like Josh Reynolds and like 30-year-old crap. Like I just wanted to get some young receiver talent in there. So Mooney, Nico Collins, just some young guys that have a little bit of upside that like break glass in case of emergency maybe. But there's still work to do in terms of getting quality young talent in there without sacrificing a win now mode to try and take down Jackson.
And I thought the Sanders one was really interesting because at the time when you had Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, and Dalvin Cook, you had Miles Sanders, who was really like a fourth starting caliber running back on your team, and he was the youngest one. And so I looked at him like, man, this guy's already old. Now he's just kind of made his starting running back room even older. But when we look at Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I feel like there's this it's an outside chance, I would say. But I do have concern about how he's going to be utilized in that offense. We're all here to buy talent, but Seattle was a very interesting landing spot, I thought, just for the coaching philosophy there. I think if we're going back to a year ago, we all might have guessed that Pete Carroll was on the outs in Seattle and that team wasn't going to be very good in 2022. And then like the script flipped basically from where a lot of people thought the Seahawks and the Broncos were going to be for 2022. So Pete Carroll's still there, likes to run the ball, established the run. Seattle's been very didn't seem like they were historically prioritizing the wide receiver position. And you kind of had these guys come out like Doug Baldwin and Tyler Lockett, who were not like I forget where Tyler Lockett was drafted. I know Doug Baldwin was undrafted, but you really saw the last couple of years them start to invest here in the wide receiver position. First round capital in the wide receiver position, very out of the norm for the Pete Carroll era in Seattle. So, if there's one thing to point at in particular, if you like draft capital, like seems like they're really going to want to utilize the guy because of that draft capital. But I still kind of have these leftover vibes from knowing how the Seahawks utilized receivers in the Pete Carroll era over like the past decade or so. That makes me wonder if they're gonna not as bad as a Kyle Pitts, but like are they gonna keep JSN's production capped just by like scheme and how they want to run the offense? Is that a big concern for you, Jimbo?
Not entirely. I mean, the only concern I have now is just there's so many mouths to feed.
Yeah.
So it is nice to have JSN and both Lockett on my roster. I mean, it's probably going to be a headache, but I'm just assuming when Lockett either retires or goes anywhere else and JSN just slides right in that wide receiver 2 spot, aside from DK, like the sky's the limit. Dude's a freak.
How big are you on Rashaad Penny? Because for me, trading away Rashaad was less about how I think he's going to do the next 1 or 2 years and more just about I'm trying to get younger on my own team. So, I mean, I haven't put a whole lot of thought into how well I think Penny's going to do this year just because I haven't really had to. So, like, what are your thoughts on Penny here?
I love Penny. He just can't stay on the field, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
And I'd like him a lot more if DeAndre Swift wasn't there.
Sure.
Who also can't stay on the field, apparently. But I did see a tweet today, Scott Barrett. He's like, the only player thread I've ever made or had on Twitter was for Rashaad Penny. So if he's in my corner, then I feel pretty confident about that. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the combo Penny and Sanders does because Philly didn't really have a receiving back last year. It was you either threw the ball to Goddard, Smith, or AJ Brown, or you ran the ball with Miles Sanders or Jalen Hurts. There wasn't that they've added another aspect to their offense. I wonder what it will take from and who sort of becomes that like cut bait when the sort of a passing back comes into that system. I'm interested to see that, but Rashaad Penny Miles Sanders had his most productive year behind the same offensive line with the same assets around him. And if Miles Sanders can be a Pro Bowler, then Rashaad Penny can be a Pro Bowler too.
Are you willing to get hurt again?
What's up, Dane?
Said, are you willing to get hurt again?
No, I am personally going to stay as far away from those two cats as I can. But more power to the Rashaad Penny fans. I don't have anything against him. Just
Yeah, I mean, I like to see him be healthy. For
yeah,
sure.
of course.
I
Yeah.
want to see the Rashaad Penny.
Will I put my eggs in that basket? No, thank you. No, my eggs are staying
It's a
somewhere
real.
else.
It's like Adam Dunn. You're just swinging for the fence. You're probably going to
Yeah,
strike
exactly.
out, but if you hit it,
Yeah.
it's going 450.
Yeah.
Any particular players on the whole package to the right here? Like Jimbo, is there one player in particular that you wanna call out and talk about out of this list here? Yeah.
I will say one thing I've noticed. The first initial trade that we did, I mean, that was back in February. And I think if you take out Kelce, like literally the stock of every player you got went up and mine went down. So like Gino, they talked about Seattle drafting a quarterback in the first round. They went the opposite and got a receiver. So he's up. Waller went to the Giants where he's going to be the guy. So he's up. Daniel Jones got a guy. So he's up. And Javonte, I didn't think he was going to recover in time. Or I thought he'd be like out for the beginning of the season, whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, he'll be ready for week 1. So he's up.
I don't know how much stock I put in that though either. I mean, we're still talking ACLs here.
That's true. Yeah. Dak lost his offensive coordinator, and Dalvin Cook no longer is employed. So this is quite the swing.
Someone's going to sign him. Yeah.
Favorites.
I mean, so like Kareem Hunt's still like a free agent. He seemed to just kind of fall off. And I know that Dalvin Cook was less efficient last year, but like
he's still good.
Still a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah. So
that was a crazy one.
A lot can happen. Javonte Williams goes. I'm not really sure what I don't have like very specific projections or anything for Javonte Williams long term. Still very much a wait and see. Now that Sean Payton's in Denver, so like I'm curious to know what kind of long term thoughts you had about Javonte Williams. Not just like the fact that he'll play week 1 this year. Not really, definitely long-term thoughts about Javonte. How well do you think that's going to go for somebody who was like at what was his highest ranking on like Keep Trade Cut at one point, like RB3? Like it was kind of crazy.
Probably 3rd, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like now, especially with Sean Payton, I feel like that's going to do wonders for him. He can be that like Kamara, or maybe I shouldn't compare him to Kamara, but like was it week 1 or 2 last year where he had like 12 catches? Mm-hmm. Like if you're in a Sean Payton offense and you're just getting dump after dump after dump, like you're probably gonna do pretty well.
I still feel like the back if it's Kamara or Ingram, the guy to compare him to is probably Mark Ingram, right? Just more of that.
I don't think is he much of a bruiser? I thought he was light on his feet.
Yeah.
He seems more.
I mean, 5'10", 220. I mean, that's a big boy.
Yeah.
I see a lot of PPR value with him. So
I'd have to look back. I don't know the exact number in my head, but I feel like he's a guy who is really really good at like breaking tackles, getting through tackles. I thought that was more kind of his game. I never thought the Kamara end when I thought about Javonte. It's more kind of Mark Ingram, but we saw we saw plenty of passing down work for Ingram too. So yeah, definitely. So you don't see it turning into a spot where, say, next year the Broncos draft more of a pass catching back, and then Javonte really doesn't see receiving down work. You don't think that's going to be. You don't think that's a path really.
I mean, not entirely sure. I guess it's basically just Javonte and now P. Ryan that they signed.
Yeah. So they're gonna add to that room, right? As early as next year. I think it's pretty. You kind of have to. I know I picked up Jaleel McLaughlin, but the next Phillip Lindsay, no.
I was just looking at Jaleel McLaughlin on your roster, and I was like, "Who's this guy? Who?"
He's got a lot of moxie.
Does he? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take your word for it, pal.
So, who else we got here? I think, we're all kind of in agreement. I think Marquise Brown, even in a shitty offense in Arizona, he's going to be a target hog probably.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much stock I put in Michael Wilson being there. I know he's been very injury riddled throughout his college career, so I'm not really sure what to expect there. A guy who can. We'll see how he does. I don't think anyone's taking Marquise's wide receiver kind of alpha receiver status anytime soon, I guess, in Arizona. I feel like the guy's gonna sign another contract there and stay there probably. So that was kind of my thought on him. I feel like he was going to stay in Arizona, had a good chance to remain their alpha guy as far as targets. And so that was just kind of another. He's 26, so he's another guy. Whereas my own dynasty roster kind of hopefully ascends. He's someone where, in 2 or 3 years, say if my team becomes a contender, he could still be a contributor at 28 or 29. So, I mean, was there, in trading away Marquise, was there anything you kind of disagreed with there? Do you think he might not be long for Arizona at some point? Because I don't want to call it a lock, obviously, because a lot can change, year to year. But I got the gut feeling that he's going to be there for a while, and he's going to be, the primary target guy.
Yeah, no, there was nothing I disliked about Marquise. Maybe the only thing you could nitpick is his quarterback play next year, but he's still going to get a ton of targets. Maybe if like we said, they have I think it was the highest odds for the number 1 pick. Maybe if they don't move on from Kyler and they draft the Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State, maybe that's a potential. That's very speculative, and that's how much you have to nitpick to try and downgrade Marquise Brown. He's really good. It wasn't easy to trade him away, but with that package, I was like, okay.
Yep.
I know
I would take that deal.
When we were looking at that thing just before the season before he got traded in Baltimore, and he thought it was too conservative of an offense and stuff. I feel like, go back and look at the numbers. I feel like about the first half of the year he was the wide receiver 6.
Yeah, he was hooping.
Supposedly conservative offense. So that was a point for me to he can be, even in a conservative offense, he can produce like that.
Mm-hmm.
It stood out to me.
Yeah.
And then I think the main part of this whole trade package here, definitely got to dive into, is Sterling Shepard. So, look, if Sterling Shepard's healthy, he could still be
that's the thing.
There. Maybe he's not going to be
for 2 weeks he can give you 10 to 12 points.
Yes. Has that chemistry with Daniel Jones, even definitely could be the target hog of the receivers if we can get 17 games out of him, which, I guess we won't. But
we got 17 games out of Sterling Shepard. Oh boy.
But what injury is he coming off of here? Is that ACL too? I can't remember.
I thought it might have been Achilles, but
it was one of the big ones. So I think he's 30 now. So
I just put him on IR today.
Sterling Shepard
knee. So not great.
No, not great.
So if we're talking about, you're talking about the players in the first deal on my side going up, players on your side going down. On July 26th, 2023, are you still doing that first deal for Travis Kelce?
That's a very good question. You know what? Probably not. I mean, I would try and rework it, but as like if that offer came in like right now, I'd probably say no. Unfortunately.
Because of Waller going to the Giants.
Because
because
I pretty much
yeah.
like I wanted a big, like we said, I wanted an anchor at the time and like a big name in Kelce, and like Waller was good, but he wasn't that next level, and now I feel like he can easily get there this year. Honestly, I'd rather start Geno than Dak maybe this year too.
I mean, yeah.
I won't stand for it. I won't stand for the Dak slander.
Even though, even with that OC now in Dallas.
Oh God, what is it? Brian Schottenheimer. Oh
yeah.
my God. Yeah. Whatever. He was so good with Kellen Moore. I'm so surprised Kellen Moore didn't get a big time job.
Herbert.
He and Herbert are gonna go bananas though.
That's gonna be sexy.
Yeah, it is. So to make that first trade equal now, let's just go with what do you got to drop from the first package here to make it equal today? Would you say?
Let's see. If I was gonna go for Kelce, I think leaving the quarterbacks in would be fine. The whole Dalvin and Javonte is a big ouch right now. Because when I got Dalvin, I was assuming he'd still be on Minnesota, and he's been an RB1 for God knows how many years now. So
sure.
And now it's who knows what's happening. So
if we're dropping, so it's Geno, Darren Waller, Daniel Jones, 2025 first. For Kelce, Prescott, second and a third.
Even that I don't know if I'd still do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would do that, Dane. I don't know. See, I don't know.
I was real big on trying to get Javonte for sure. So then I think because of my team strategy at the time, I think I'm still doing that. Yeah. So I don't know what else we can pull off substance-wise from this particular trade. Emery, you got anything else?
I don't. I believe that, like I said from the jump, I think that there's no like ringer of a winner in this. I think that if you get Kelce, you're gonna win some games either way, and you've Dane gotten to the point where you are comfortable with the position of your team and the growth that you can expect from it. So yeah, there's wins in each of this. So I don't have anything else after that, really.
That's it. Yeah, that's kind of when you know it's a good trade, is when you see possible realistic W's on both sides, realistic L's on both sides. I don't have Jones anymore. I don't have Waller anymore. Don't have Smith anymore. Got rid of all those guys too to get even younger. So it's hard to it's a little too hard to say where the L might come from on my team, other than just the guys that I traded Smith and Waller and Jones away for after that, like Trey Lance, like Marvin Mims and guys like that. So that's a little going to like another probably hour of conversation that we don't need to do here on the Dynasty Dive. So